Is it a boy or a girl? It's the first question everybody asks about you, about all of us, when we're born. It's the foundation of our identity. Everything else builds on top of that. It's a real challenge. Because when I changed my gender at the age of 50, everybody started asking the same question again. Well, the kids did at least. Are you a man or a woman? I said no, which kept them confused. And then they led on to, so do you go to bed with men or women? Everybody's confusion there. Look, at my age, there's so little choice, I hardly like to limit my options. But this whole area becomes hugely difficult. Everybody gets so confused when they don't work out whether you're a boy or a girl. I was about to go to a meeting at a local council. The receptionist said, I'll get someone to show you where the room is. Could you just take this person? It was a real difficulty. But the question we really got to know is, when I declare it's a boy or a girl, is that a declaration about your sex, or is that about your gender? Now, sex and gender. I get people to discuss this, or I do transgender awareness workshops, get people to discuss this, and you'd think it's a really, really simple question, but it's not. In fact, it's actually a 20-credit module on a master's degree just to try and figure this out. Take a look at this. I mean, you get an application form, and on it you've got M, sex, M or F, gender, M and F. Now, is that the same question? Or is it a different question? Are we asking a different thing? Now, part of the problem here is that the word sex has two meanings. Now, how many of you, when you've had an application form like that, have written, yes, please, when it said sex? And that's the challenge, isn't it? Because the first meaning about sex is about bonking. It's about sexual activity, which has absolutely nothing to do with whether you're male or female. You can do sex with same-sex partners, with opposite-sex partners. You can do sex in groups. You can do it on a computer. It's called cybersex. You can do it with animals. It's called bestiality. It is illegal. But there's the challenge. Now, the problem about this is that if I take the word sex and I put that into any compound word like homosexual, what I do is make you think, not about whether I'm gay or whether someone's gay, but about what I do in terms of sexual activity. And that will take you immediately to thinking about anal sex, which, according to Stephen Fry in his recent documentary, is actually, few gay people actually do that. If you think about transsexual, the first question that comes to head immediately is genitalia. Have you had reconstruction surgery? It's the third question I get asked from kids. Have you had it cut off? I said, no, they don't cut it off. They peel back the skin, they cut it out the middle, they tuck it up inside, they go, and 2 days later I've got the police knocking on the door saying, we've had a complaint, you've been speaking to children in a sexually explicit manner. I said, they asked me a question. I answered, nobody actually talks about this, nobody deals with it. That's the problem we've got. Now, sex is also, of course, about all these other things, about biology, it's about body parts. When we say, is it a boy or a girl, how do we determine that? We have a quick look. Has it got a penis? If it is, it's a boy. If it's not, it's a girl. Back before 1992, all women were sex tested if they competed in in the Olympic Games. We looked at their body, we looked at their chromosomes, we looked at their hormones to determine, are they really female? And if you were performing very well, but there was XY chromosomes, that was it. You'd be disqualified. We've got past that now. We're beginning to look now a bit more effectively. But what happens when a child is born? You look, and you can't quite decide, is it a boy or is it a girl? Well, they do all the sex testing to try and figure it out, and then somebody makes a judgment, because somewhere around we've got to write on a form, it's male or it's female. Why can't we just let the child grow up and help it figure out the answer to that question? We can't. We have to fix it. And sometimes we get that wrong. So when we finally get to boy or girl, I'm going to wrap the baby in pink or blue, depending upon that identification. And now sex is over, because what we've now moved to is gender. And gender is a social construction. The term gender was defined largely by the feminists in the 1970s to describe those aspects of our sexual identity that are socially constructed. Now, that affects everything. It's about our language, it's about our culture, jobs, education, all the sorts of things. Now, these are all man-made rules about how we should perform on the basis of a quick inspection of which genitalia you've got. And that sets things up for the rest of your life. when we put the pink blanket or the blue blanket on, it's actually a message to everybody else saying, look here, these are the rules about how you now engage with this child. This is what you do. And it's coming from every direction. I want to look at this thing, pinkification of girls. It's not my term, but I like it. It's a term about the dumbing down of women. Let me show you. This is a toy. Look at the badge in the top left-hand corner. My cleaning trolley for girls only. What message is that sending out about the way in which we're supposed to perform in our lives? How about Lego? Boys' toy or a girl's toy? What do you think? Actually, it's both, isn't it? Lego's for both. Except then we've got Lego Space, we've got Lego Technics and everything else. And so it's all become, and all the miniatures, they're all boys. Well, it's being changed because now we have Lego Friends. Note the pink bricks. All the characters are female. You can do hairdressing salons and beauty salons and swimming pools. And wait for it. They've simplified the bricks. I kid you not. Boots the chemist decided they were going to follow the trend of gendering all of their toy areas. They were going to decide boys' toys and girls' toys. Now, they put into the boys' toys area microscopes and chemistry sets. There was absolute uproar. Boots is the #1 employer of women with chemistry degrees. They backed off. I said, sorry, no, going to change it. Unfortunately, other people are beginning to. And I challenge you now to try and stop this stupidity. Because if a girl or a boy walks into a toy shop and there's the toy full of Barbies and it's all pink and the boy's there, is he going to dare to walk down that aisle? Is he going to dare to pick up something that's got girl's toy on it? No, because if you ask kids about their gender, they will tell you from about the age of 3 what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. And if you ask them why they can't wear different clothes, they will tell you, because people will laugh at me. And we bully them into conforming to a gender stereotype that we just made up. It's all man-made. So, gender identity. Now, gender identity is different because gender identity isn't about the gender, which is socially constructed. That's about my sense of self, my sense of, am I a boy or a girl? How do I feel about who I am? And the big argument here is that something that happens as a result of nature? Is it innate? Or is it something about the way in which we were socially constructed? Were we taught to feel that way? Was there something went wrong? Now, the psychiatrists originally thought it's all about nurture, therefore we can fix it. At the age of 6, my parents had got told that I had a little problem with engaging with children of my own age. So I was sent to a child psychiatrist and they said, oh, we've assessed him and he's 2 years ahead of his age mentally. So I was put up a year in class. And that sort of worked for a while. But then I reflected back as I got older and I realized actually they missed it. If you'd assessed any girl at age 6 or 7 against boys, you would have come to the conclusion that they were 2 years ahead of their age mentally, because that's what we know. They were assessing me as a boy, that I didn't play boy games, I didn't play football, I didn't play cricket, I didn't want to engage in the rough and tumble. I preferred to have a single friend. I liked girls' comics. All the things that they were seeing were actually female behavior, and because it was there, they weren't picking it up. Now, I'm very glad about that, because this was the 1950s, and at that stage, they considered this to be a gender identity disorder. And I would have been subjected to electric shock treatment. Now, whether it's nature or nurture, it's really difficult to know. The Dutch have been doing huge amounts of work in the Amsterdam, the Netherlands Institute for Brain Research, and they found that there are certain parts of the brain which are different in men and women. And they've also found that trans women, like myself, people born male, have brains that are more similar to the patterns they see in women than in men, and vice versa. So there's a lot of evidence around that. We know that men and women have different their brains work slightly differently. We know, for example, that there's a larger cortex between the two sides of the brain, and that seems to facilitate women's better ability at multitasking, but it also seems to be contributing to men's better ability at judging speed and distance. We know that women use both sides of the brain more equally for communication, And if a man uses most of the left side, if a man is hit with a stroke, they're more likely to lose speech permanently because of that. What we think happens, and this is the sort of general research now, is that during fetal development, while a fetus is in the womb, if it's XY chromosomes, if it's a boy, it should be getting a certain amount of testosterone. If it doesn't get that, then the default development of the brain will be female. For a female child, it's the reverse. They don't need testosterone. If they get it, then they will go along a male development. Really hard to figure this out because you need brains of dead people that you can actually dissect, and sometimes it's tiny, tiny microscopic areas that are different. Now, fortunately, one of the things that has changed is that we've got rid of the idea of gender identity disorder. It's no longer considered a disorder. I'm not considered mentally ill because my gender didn't match, my sense of self didn't match my body. We're over that. It's now called gender dysphoria. Nice medical term, just means extreme distress. But not everybody has that extreme case. Sometimes we have people which just aren't comfortable with their gender identity, or the gender they're having to be forced to be in. And we call that gender variant. Let's just have a look at how many there are, because people tend to think just about those people who are going through gender reassignment surgery. And that's a small number. 12,500 was the last figures. It's probably around 15,000 now. But when research has been done, it looks as if there are probably 6 out of every 1,000 people are uncomfortable with their assigned gender at birth. Oddly, 80% male to female. So it seems to be something that affects men more than it does women. Or does it? Ladies, let me take you now to Burton's menswear and get you to dress entirely in clothes only available in Burton's. When you came out, do you think anybody would notice much? Guys, I'm going to take you next door into Dorothy Perkins and dress you entirely in clothes only available in Dorothy Perkins. When you come out into the street, do you think anybody would notice? Oh, you bet. Because we've got this gender continuum, and if we've got masculinity here, a woman is able to go pretty much all the way over here, and it's only when we get right over here, everybody goes, oh, lesbian. But if a man starts to move, you get as far as pink shirt and going, gay. If I want to go all the way over here, the only way to do it is I have to impersonate a woman if I want to walk down the street and not risk getting beaten up, humiliated, or attacked, because that's the penalty for failing to comply with the male gender limits. So there's the challenge. I think we've got a lot of women who probably would identify as trans, but actually they don't, because they don't need to, because they can just get on with life and do whatever they want. What we need to do is change the thing so that actually everybody can go anywhere along this gender line, and who cares? I've got a deep voice. Get over it. Now, sexual orientation, 60 in every 1,000, 6% of the population, and you'll notice a lot of gay people and lesbian and gay people actually present gender that breaks the rules. So gender is affecting not just people who are trans, but actually people who are gay, and there are lots of people who just generally express themselves in a different way. It's about 10% of the population, so it's a much, much bigger proportion than we used to think. A book called Why Am I Afraid to Tell You How I Am affected me quite a lot. In it, Powell said, if I tell you who I am, and you don't like who I am, that's all I have. And I will add, and you might hurt me. Because I have been personally subjected to hate crime attacks. Most trans people I know have had to face that. Now, what we need to do is get to a point where I can express myself without having to worry. And as a result of trying to move to this, we have changed the laws. The Equality Act, the Gender Recognition Act, the Human Rights Act, all of these have changed things so that now it is illegal. But look at this. This is the definition of harassment. Harassment occurs when somebody engages in unwanted behavior which is related to a relevant, protected characteristic, sex, gender, sexual orientation, and which has the purpose or effect of violating a person's dignity or creating an intimidating, hostile, degrading, or humiliating or offensive environment for that person. Oh my God, that's so gay! If somebody is secretly gay, secretly trans, and you say that, and nobody picks up on it, and nobody challenges it, they will find themselves in an intimidating, hostile, degrading, humiliating, or offensive environment. What you have done is harassment. If you tell a joke about somebody who's trans or gay, you're doing that. And you do not know if the people sitting next to you are gay or trans or hiding a gender identity that they are too scared to come out with. I was so scared once driving my car because I was cross-dressed that when the police tried to stop me because my front light wasn't working, I decided to just carry on. Because I decided it was safer and better to get home and be arrested later for failing to stop than risk humiliation. The greatest fear we all face in life isn't speaking to a group of people, although you might think so. Speaking to a group of people just happens to be the easiest way to confront your greatest fear. That greatest fear is humiliation. Loss of face. 35% of trans people try to commit suicide rather than face the humiliation. At the end of the Second World War, Japanese officers committed harikari because they had lost face. They could not stand the possibility of that humiliation. But we can change it. All we need to do is start to challenge gender identity. Guys, 31st of October is Halloween. It's the perfect day for every one of you to get cross-dressed and go for it and have a bit of fun. Just see what it's like. Just get out there. Just challenge these rigid and stupid rules. Because once you start to challenge them, the life for me and all the other people who have a gender identity issue gets easier and easier. And that's really what we've got to do. When we have the same freedom for men as currently is available for women, we will start to see a drop in the mental health problems, the suicides, the victimization, the bullying, the harassment, the hate crime. All of that will start to go away. And here's just one simple rule that you can live by. It's the fundamental principle of all human rights. Yeah, okay, I have characteristics that make me look and sound as if I might be male. I prefer to dress and express myself as female because my gender identity is female. All I want is to be treated with dignity and respect, to be allowed to be me without fear for my safety. So I just ask you, treat everyone with dignity and respect. Thank you.